So as chairman of the House Oversight Committee, you have been investigating members of Joe Biden's family and their business with the Bidens. Have you found anything illegal while he was actually in office?
Well, we found a lot that's certainly unethical. We found a lot that should be illegal. The line is blurry as to what is legal and not legal with respect to family influence peddling.
You know, Senator, who do we think the other country is? We knew the Chinese connection and all that, but this is something new. Do you have any information on that?
I do not. I don't have any information on what the whistleblowers has alleged in terms of the specific substantive allegations. Other than that, there is documentation that the FBI has. And I just say again to those Democrats out there screaming about how Joe Biden is innocent. Joe Biden hasn't done anything. Well, fine. Then show us what you know. Show us what the evidence is in the allegations. Don't be afraid of what the facts are.
Quickly, before I let you go, Senator, will your colleagues make those underlying documents publicly available? We know the whistleblower will remain protected, but what about the allegations? Will the American people see them?
Well, we'll have to see what's in them. You know, see whether they're credible allegations, whether they connect to other wrongdoing by the Biden family.
And if they turn out to not be credible, sir, will your colleagues acknowledge that, you think? Only got a couple seconds left.
That'll be up to them. They're the ones that'll get the documents.
But, you know, I must admit the letter's electrifying because it talks about exchange of money for policy decisions. So that's why naturally, you know, it's a very serious allegation against the then vice president.
It is a very serious allegation. I wish I could say that I knew it was true or untrue.
We're wondering exactly what this is all about. According to a press release that was sent out by James Comer's office, it says the information provided by a whistleblower raises concerns that then Vice President Biden allegedly engaged in a bribery scheme with a foreign national. He goes on to say the American people need to know if President Biden sold out the United States to make money for himself. Senator Grassley and I will seek the truth to ensure accountability for the American people. Well, that really whets our appetite as to exactly what this is all about. Does this have to do with Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings in Ukraine or China, or is it something else?
Well, I guess basically we've got to wait to see what the document exactly says.
That was a full compilation of Republicans being utterly incapable of answering any questions about their supposed findings that prove there was some illegal conspiracy involving Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. They either haven't seen the evidence that they're so openly touting on national TV, or they have seen the evidence and just don't want to acknowledge that it doesn't show any illegality. I mean, James Comer's response just perfectly sums up how desperate this whole ploy is. They asked him if he has found illegal conduct, and he just said they found conduct that should be illegal. For those who don't know, that's Republican for we're just making shit up. It's actually incredible. In interview after interview, they're asked the same thing, and none of them are prepared to actually answer the question. Here's another.
Wait, it says specifically, the release today, that the vice president may have altered policy for money, a bribery scheme. He may have actually changed policy. Have you narrowed it down to what policies, or can you at least tell me, if you have, what area? If you can't say specifically, what do you know about it, sir? Congressman Fallon.
Well, Greg, that'll all come out, I think, and it'll come out very soon. The bottom line is, let's ask another question, very simple one. What business, what product or service did the Bidens ever provide?
Yeah.
Right. It'll come out soon. Maybe in 2 weeks? Somewhere around the same time that we're expecting Trump's healthcare plan. But of course, the obvious lack of evidence here isn't stopping someone like Ted Cruz, who's now even talking about impeaching Biden for allegations that they demonstrably have no clue the substance of.
They're saying that they believe the DOJ and the FBI possess an unclassified FD 1023 that describes an alleged criminal scheme involving then Vice President Biden and a foreign national relating to the exchange of money for a policy decision. That would be a high crime and misdemeanor, wouldn't it, Senator?
It absolutely would. In fact, it doesn't have to be a high crime or misdemeanor because the Constitution specifies that impeachment lies for treason, bribery, or other high crimes or misdemeanors. Bribery is explicitly noted in the Constitution. And I got to say, the evidence, not only against Hunter Biden, but the evidence against Joe Biden being complicit and profiting from this corruption is growing and growing and growing. Every week on my podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz, I've walked listeners through the detailed evidence that's growing.
So, just to make sure we're clear here, Trump illegally bribing a porn star with hush money to hide damaging information from American voters just a couple of weeks before an election in blatant violation of campaign finance laws, that's A-OK. Trump's own daughter, Ivanka, using her senior White House role to get dozens of trademarks for her business approved in China in an obvious bribery scheme, no problem. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, using his senior White House role to cultivate corrupt connections with the Saudi crown prince who gave him $2 billion, no comment from Republicans. But this made-up bullshit about Biden's son, who, by the way, doesn't work in the White House, that even James Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, publicly admits isn't actually illegal but just wishes were illegal, yeah, that's impeachment-worthy for Republicans. Got it. And here's the thing about all of this. This is very clearly just Republicans searching for anything to try to find an excuse to impeach Biden. It is a conclusion in search of evidence. They are grasping at straws in the most pathetic and obvious way possible, and embarrassing themselves on national television while doing it. And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene on the very first full day of Biden's presidency saying that she filed articles of impeachment against him. For what reason? Well, she really doesn't have any clue.
Just filed articles of impeachment on President Joe Biden. We'll see how this goes.
I can tell you where it went. Nowhere. But then, later, Marjorie found a different reason to introduce articles of impeachment. You know what that reason was? Biden used the powers at his disposal, and I hope you're sitting down for this one, because corruption like this may be hard to stomach, to lower Americans' gas prices.
I just introduced articles of impeachment on President Joe Biden. Joe Biden is selling our strategic petroleum reserves. This should never happen. He is draining our reserves and selling our oil, Americans' oil, to foreign countries, and China is the top buyer. China is our enemy. They are not our friend. They're buying Americans' oil. The strategic petroleum reserve is our emergency supply for if something goes wrong in this country. It's now down to 434 million barrels of oil. That is nearly half of what it was when President Trump left office. This is an outrage. This is completely wrong, and no president of the United States should be doing this to the American people. It's going to create a national emergency crisis, and that's exactly what President Joe Biden is doing. This is the number, HR 1362, impeach Joe Biden.
That's right. Republicans introduced articles of impeachment against Biden because he lowered your price of gas. In fact, Biden actually reportedly turned a profit for American taxpayers by later refilling American Strategic Petroleum Reserve at lower prices that were caused by selling the reserves earlier in 2022. But for some odd reason, we never heard about that on Fox. I wonder why. In fact, here's Marjorie Taylor Greene bragging about wasting her time for this nonsense, basically admitting that it's for political reasons.
And I think I've introduced like 7 or 8, or I don't know where I'm at now, articles of impeachment on Joe Biden over the past 2 years. And while I don't want to impeach a president for political reasons, I definitely think Joe Biden should be impeached.
And there you have it. They have no clue what they're actually doing with any of this. Even Fox is acknowledging that this is just empty rhetoric with no actual evidence.
This seems more direct, at least in what's being said by Grassley and Comer.
Well, this is, after all, if there's anything to it, is about Biden himself and not simply his son and maybe through his son. On the other hand, we don't know who the whistleblower is. We don't know what foreign country was involved. We don't know how much money was involved, if any. We don't know what the specific influence that was being sought to do. In other words, we don't know very much. And this is an early stage of this. It doesn't keep these politicians on the Hill from coming out and talking about it and for the White House to respond. But we need to be careful here because, the air is full of charges, as it sometimes is, and we're entering the political season. So my advice is, let's be careful here.
No, I agree, and we are being that. Leslie, we, caveat that we don't have any hard information.
And look, you and I know that this is all bullshit from the GOP, but when you're a Republican and you've even managed to lose the propagandists on Fox, you might have lost the plot. And yet, while Republicans are busy using their majority to conjure up non-existent impeachment articles, contrast that with what Democrats did in the majority the previous 2 years. They passed once-in-a-lifetime infrastructure investments, lowered prescription drug costs, passed the biggest climate investment in history, oversaw record job growth, brought the unemployment rate down to historic lows, allowed Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices, passed historic manufacturing investments that are already leading to multi-billion-dollar projects across the country, signed the PACT Act for veterans health care, and enshrined marriage equality protections into federal law. What do Republicans do when they're in power? They try to block all of those things that Democrats just did, while also wasting everyone's time with this nonsense about impeachment. The difference between the two parties could not be more clear. Before you go, I need your help. I'm right on the cusp of hitting 2 million subscribers, so please help me grow this channel so the progressive media ecosystem grows by hitting the subscribe button right here on the screen. I also started a Spanish channel so we can finally start regaining some of that lost ground among Spanish speakers, so if you want to help support those efforts, you can hit that subscribe button. And finally, if you listen to podcasts and you want to support mine, you'll find a link to that on the screen as well. Thanks so much for watching.